Hello and welcome. Today, my guest is Charli Mackie. She is, actually, I've known her mum for a very long time because we were both at dancing college together a very long time ago. And now Charli herself has gone into the business, but into film. Charli, welcome.
Hello, thank you so much for having me.
Oh, it's marvelous. Thank you so much for coming and agreeing to talk to us because, as you know, there aren't enough women working in the film industry in any and all departments. And you have just graduated as a film score composer. Is that right?
Yeah, so I've just finished my music degree from Royal Holloway, specialising in film music composition. And hopefully, fingers crossed, I will be doing a master's specialising in film and TV. I've just sent off the application, so I'm in that kind of waiting for that email stage. But that would be incredible. But it's a very competitive course. But I think anything worth doing is going to be competitive.
Yes, I absolutely agree. Now tell me a little bit, sort of winding back the clock. What age were you when you started to do? Did you play the piano? Was that your first instrument to learn to play?
Yeah, so I've been playing the piano since probably I was about 6 years old, and it started with my mum trying to give me a lesson, which ended in 10 minutes in tears, saying, I don't want to do it, I want to watch TV or something, and mum going, no, you have to do it, you have to do it. And then we got a teacher, and then it was fantastic after that. He was the best teacher in the world, so inspiring, and it's so lovely because I've just started teaching myself, so it's like I've come full circle. It's the circle of musical life. But yeah, so played piano for a long time now, and I've always loved just messing around with whatever I was given. So even sort of age 9, I would come back with a piece that I was set, and I'd play it in a different key because I thought that was really cool. And
it is really cool. I couldn't have done that.
And through a bit, but
and when you start, was it an easy transition then from sort of rearranging an established piece of music to writing your own compositions?
So I never really thought of composing own stuff. I was only messing around with what I'd been given, but when I was doing my GCSEs, we had the composition module, and they just told us, oh, you have to write a piece or 2 pieces. And I sat down and I started messing around on this. It was Sibelius that I started on, and I realized this is really cool. I really like this. I want to do this more. So I went back next lunchtime and I went on the computer and I tried some more, and I came back with this. I mean, it was a very basic piece, but I absolutely loved it. Just there was something so different about making my own stuff, and I found it quite easy, or it just seemed to come naturally, and it sort of just carried on from there, really. But I never even thought that I could make a career out of it. It was just something that I really liked to do.
So what was that tipping point then, do you think? Was it watching films and now you're taking notice not just of the dialogue and the visuals, but you're actually paying attention to the film score as well?
Absolutely. So I've realized that the films that I like, it's because the music fits so fantastically. And I may not even like the score just to listen to on its own, but the way that it gels with the rest of the picture, when you find that perfect balance, it's like that sugary, sweet, salty spot, with Doritos. They've found the perfect addictive crunch, and you can't stop. And it just makes.
Oh, I'm using that. Your film is like a Doritos chip.
God, I love this as well. But yeah, so it's like Avatar. I just think the music is so perfect for it, and I know that James Horner, one of my favorite composers actually, has just captured the world of Avatar, but not just captured it, but also written it. So it's not just matching the world, it's also creating more of it. So you're not just watching it, you're feeling it, and you are immersed in the world of Pandora. And
it's really interesting that you say Avatar, because while you were talking, before you said it, I was thinking, I think Avatar fits that bill. I think it's quite, and of course, James Horner composed the music for Titanic. And if
Yes.
you use that as an example, that song and that do 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 do, if ever you hear it, you immediately see Kate Winslet, Leonardo DiCaprio on the prow of the ship,
Yes.
because the music precedes the visual.
Yeah.
Because it's so iconic, like the Jaws theme and all of this.
Incredible. And what's so interesting about the Jaws theme as well is the director originally didn't want any music. And John Williams said, "No, I really think I could do something here." And he said, "Oh, okay, I'll give you a go." And he's turned it into one of the most famous motifs. You just hear that da da, and immediately like, "Oh, where's the song?" And yeah, it's amazing.
I feel like I'm getting something of a film composition class here. I'm sure you delved very deeply into all of that in your university course. Can you talk a little bit about that course and about how, what you had to do to get accepted, and part of your experience in a full, like truly immersing yourself in film composition, because I'm sure there were other things you had to learn as well.
Yeah, so it's slightly frustrating for me. There wasn't enough film music stuff at uni. So I only had a few modules, and the rest of it was your traditional sort of Bach, Mozart, Russian music, or sort of your classic just music student stuff, which is all fine, but all I wanted to do was those few modules that I had. And the reason that I picked that uni to start was because they offered those few that I really wanted to do, and they were just fantastic. So one of the modules, it was all about using this software called Logic Pro, which is the software out there for composers. Everyone uses it, I think. And it just comes with infinite sounds. You can have everything. You can make what sounds like a full piece orchestra, or you can make the sound of a horse walking along, or you can make the sound of a choir, and it sounds like they're in the room with you. And that just from working with the horrible scratchy violin sounds on Sibelius that aren't going to fool anyone, if I'm honest. It's quite, you have to use a bit of imagination when you're listening to something from that. But then going from that to Logic, that was sort of the, oh my god, I can actually make something that sounds like it could be real. It sounds like it doesn't sound like, oh well, if this was played by real instruments, then it could be all right. It actually sounds professional.
It's the challenging dichotomy, isn't it, where digital filmmaking is replacing a lot of human participation. And of course, we'd love to be at Abbey Road Studios with a full orchestra, and right now you play your bit, and you add them all together and do that. But it's just physically and fiscally not possible always, especially for low budget filmmakers or people starting out.
Exactly.
So that's very exciting. And of course I know about that program you're talking about, because a lot of films wouldn't get any music if everything had to be played by an orchestra.
Exactly. And orchestras are very expensive to run.
Yes.
Even though as an orchestra member you never feel like you're getting enough as well. I've played in orchestras all my life, and you always feel like you're just part of this big mass, and it's wonderful, but you're never really, especially professionally as well, it's not something you go in for the salary. But
so you had these two modules that were your favorite things, and you paced yourself through the the stuff that's the groundwork of your music. It's not, I think,
exactly.
There are a lot of very musical people out there, and probably some very naturally talented people, but to get that grounding, that classical background, how important would you think that was for you?
I think it's very important, definitely, because if you go into, at least as far as I know, I'm right at the beginning of my career, so I haven't really been in the industry. Maybe I'm not even in it at the moment, but for that long, you have to be so versatile with what you can do. You can get, and it's all about the brief, so it's all about working to that, but also bringing through your own musical fingerprint, as I like to call it. So the reason that directors and producers would choose you is because what you can do. It's not, oh, I just need someone to do a nice love theme, or I need someone to do some scary music. It's like, I want so and so, because their music is amazing, and you can, like, you always know when you're listening to a John Williams score or a Thomas Newman. Thomas Newman is probably my favorite composer, and he's done so many different films, but you can always tell it's him, which is so important. And I think that takes time to develop as well, your own voice in music, especially when you're working with so many different things. But yeah, because the briefs can be so varied, I think it's so vital having that groundwork of classical, because you can always build from that into any other style and genre once you have that.
Is there a film that you wish you had composed the music for? Is there a film that you'd like to chuck the music away and go, right, give me that film, and I would love to, probably Avatar, maybe, if it's that, if it lends itself so musically to the visuals, or vice versa. Is there a film that you could think of that you'd like to do that with?
Gosh, that's a hard question. I feel like I'd be doing a discredit to all the composers who wrote it. Gosh, I don't know really. I think it's quite hard to say, because films that don't have a very good score, I don't remember them, and I dismiss them in my head. So you just,
and then if you did love the score and you did love the film, why would you mess with that?
Exactly, because it's so brilliant already.
Well, I think that's quite a good answer then. It's probably a great compliment to the composers. How many women were on your course learning to make music for films?
So interestingly, it was about 50-50, I would say, in the main music bit, but in the specific, like, electronic composition module, it was weighted a lot more to blokes. And
do you think you can say why? Do you know why?
I think with composition, you're much more vulnerable in how you're putting yourself out there, because it's very much, you are making something new and original. You're not just writing an essay on something that people have already written essays on, because you can hide in that, I think. But with composition, you are revealing a part of yourself in your work. So with our classes as well, we had to play them out loud in front of each other, and to have the confidence to do that and show people, this is something that I have made, that's come from my brain and what I think is right, to then have that criticized is very hard. And I think, yeah.
And did you notice, did it come across that the male students in the course, when they were presenting their work, for instance, that did you perceive them to be very confident, like, yeah, I wrote this, and this is what it's to go?
Usually it's almost funny how confident, like, they'd come in and they say, yeah, I'm really pleased with this, yeah, it was easy, yeah, it's amazing, do you want to hear mine? And even when they hadn't finished, like, they hadn't done much work on it, it was very basic, they'd say, yeah, I'll play it, yeah, it's really good. And then the composition teacher would say, no, it's actually not that good. They'd still be like, oh, I still think it's good. I, on the other hand, would have been working for 40 hours maybe on a 10-second piece, and I would go in and say, oh, I don't know, it's not quite finished yet, that bit's not quite right, I need to work on it, but I can show you if you want. And immediately I'm setting myself up for failure, because the composition lecturer is thinking, oh, well, it's not finished yet, and everyone else is thinking it's not finished yet. But actually, when I played it, he said, well, that's amazing, that's brilliant, it's really good. And it's almost like I was going, oh my God, is it really?
It's a little bit of the old fake it till you make it stuff, isn't it?
Yeah.
But I know from my own experience as a director that the mistakes I made on my own set, and I wish I had had this little bit of advice before I went on my own set, was that we just don't know how to say no. Women are not trained. We're exactly what you're saying. Like, I would go, well, what I'd like it to be is, do you think we could, if we actually, what if we, no, and this producer said to me, Alexandra, you've got to start saying no. I was like, no, but I want something to happen. She goes, no, what you say is no. We're doing such and such and such and such.
Absolutely.
No, it's this, that, and the other. I started to do it, and it started working. Because listen, I don't want this podcast to be about, disparaging men and their behavior in our industry. But there are some issues, and there's a little bit of, if you can't beat them, join them, where you start to listen to the way men present themselves, and they don't apologize. They don't worry that you're going to think they're a bit ballsy or a bit pushy. They just get on with it. And we just have to learn. Even at my age, I'm having to learn that. And I didn't realize that pattern is so entrenched. Women, just in general, it's really hard for us to say no. And when you do learn to do it and say it, men take notice of you.
It's so true.
I think we have to just be a little bit more like that, and not make an apology and or excuses, or I need to work on this even longer. And also take it on the chin when somebody's giving you, constructive criticism, because that's really hard as well.
It's so hard.
It's the idea of having the courage of your convictions. Like the minute somebody questions your choice or your something you've done, you immediately go, "Oh, it must be wrong then." And it's not necessarily wrong. It's just, let's have a discussion about improving it or changing it or making it better. But that's something I think, again, women, just our culture is to go, "Oh, okay, is it my fault then? And I need to change. Or do you need to push back and say, no, this is how it's going to be?"
Exactly. Absolutely.
And that's the hardest part.
So difficult to do. It's so difficult to do. But I think there's a lot we can learn, or there was a lot I could learn from the boys in my class. They weren't being necessarily pretentious about it, but they were just confident in their abilities, and they didn't take it too personally when they had a comment. When the composition lecturer said, "I think that's possibly not right," they'd say, "Okay, fine." Whereas I would take that as, "God, I never can compose again. I must stop. I must find a new career. I'm terrible."
Well, and again, as a director who's asking a sound designer or a composer to underscore, these visuals that you have all edited together. So the film is locked, the picture is locked, and now we have to find some moments to put music in. And sometimes a piece of music will get written, and I'll go, "You know what? I don't want any music there at all." You'll try it. It's always a try. And then again, it just might get cut completely because it just ended up not being about that. And there's always a bit of a bun fight too between sound design and music, because there's a very fine line between what's music and what is sound. That was a fascinating thing that I learned. So you said you played in an orchestra as well. Do you play another instrument?
Yeah, I play the flute as well. Instruments. Yeah, I play the flute as well, and I've done that for as long as I play the piano too. Personally, I think for me, piano is the favorite, just because I find it so much more versatile. But again, flute has given me so many opportunities as well. So being able to play in orchestras, being able to have that knowledge of another instrument as well, which is so important when you're writing. Because as a composer, you have to, in your mind, you have to be able to play every single instrument, not just the ones in an orchestra, all the weird ones that you find in the sound libraries, names that I can't even pronounce. And you have to know the way that they work, because if your music is then played by an orchestra and the person who plays this instrument gets your score and just says, "Well, these notes don't exist. I can't play this." You have to be able to do that. And also, it just sounds better when you know that. So
and learning collaboration as well, and listening to the person next to you, and
exactly
being together and having that. I've sung in a choir a lot, and it's a similar thing where you're all trying to go for the same sound, and when it happens, it pings, and it's just so rewarding.
It's that nice. Dorito sweet spot once again.
Now, also, I know you were talking about discipline and being encouraged or inspired, and I know your mum said to me that she used to get you up at 6 a.m. and make you practice your scales before school.
Yes.
And I'm sure it was grueling, but you can look back and be really grateful for that.
I really, really can. As much as it pains me to do so, she was right. All those times where I just wanted to watch cartoons in the morning or have a lie-in. But it's so worth it. And something like learning an instrument and learning music and having that understanding, it just comes with grueling repetitiveness, and it's not always fun. In fact, at that age, it rarely is. But
it's like an athlete training for a game or a race. Your brain has to stay fit. Your fingers have to be nimble. And didn't somebody at school say, "Gosh, if I'd known how easy music was, I'd have chosen that"? Like they thought you got off lightly.
Yes, it's so funny. It's the classic. Oh, music's a soft subject. Music's you just sit around on the floor and play nursery rhymes on xylophones. I think everyone's got that image in their head of what a music degree is like, and it couldn't be more different. It couldn't be more different at all. Just because
What would you say was the most challenging part of that degree in the end?
I think for me it was confidence in all courses, not just composition. That's something that I've always struggled with. And even if it was writing an essay, it was having the confidence to just write instead of writing what I thought they wanted to see and what I thought that would please them, but not just going for it. And I think I learned to do that at the end. I picked a wacky dissertation topic. I did music and neuroscience and how music affects the brain. And I just went full, really not related to anything I'd done on the course, but something that I was passionate about, something that I was interested about. And it ended up getting me the first class degree that I tried so hard for, because I went out of my and everyone else's comfort zone. And that was a real... Yeah.
That's the lesson there. That's almost all you need to know, that you have the ability to go outside your comfort zone.
It's so true. It's so true. And the same...
But you learned so much along the way as well.
So much. I'm full of interesting facts to bring out at parties. So...
So now you have many other talents besides being a musician and a composer. Are you still modeling?
Occasionally, bit of a busy schedule at the moment, and wearing masks at work hasn't done wonders for my skin. I've got the complexion of a 13-year-old boy at the moment, which isn't ideal. But
you're not alone in that.
No, God, I think they call it maskne now. I've even got a word for it. But yeah, so occasionally it's a fun thing to do, but it's just a hobby, really.
But it's one of those things where, as a creative, and being a model, photography, all of those, it's a visual art. You have to present yourself in a certain way with a certain level of discipline, and there's this element of, unless you're extremely lucky and sort of burst out of university or school and get an opportunity to work immediately, there's always this transition period, and you may go back to it where you have other jobs that might be related or not related at all, like you're teaching piano right now. But I think one of the tricks is to find another job that's not your chosen job, that still keeps you creative and stimulated. I mean, I know I waited tables and telemarketing and things that I really didn't enjoy, but they were my bread and butter. And they kind of... So I think it's important to have those instead, but not in your back pocket, but not keep falling on them and let the other stuff go. That's a bit of a balance.
Absolutely. I think especially with film and music and any creative, really, the chance of you getting swept up and starting your career as soon as you leave uni is next to nothing. It's such a competitive field, and it's such a who is important. Those who have contacts will succeed, whether or not they're more or less talented than the person next to them. And again, like you said, I've got 4 jobs at the moment, 4 part-time jobs, and I quite like all of them. Again, it's not what I want to do indefinitely. I'm working at a restaurant, putting in the gruel. But again, it's just something to save up for my masters and just something to fall back on as well. And
yeah. Where will you do your masters?
Fingers crossed if I get in, that will be in the National Film and TV School in Beaconsfield, which is the place. And part of the reason, apart from it being an incredible course, is the invaluable contacts that I would make there, because I'm not just with film composers. There's only 10 spaces on my course, so God. But it's meeting, it's very collaborative as well. So I'll meet directors and producers and sound designers and costume designers and everyone in the film industry. So I could be sitting next to someone at lunch who's a director and have a conversation. They could say, oh, I'm doing this film about robots. And I could say, oh, I really like making robotic music. Listen to this thing that I made. And they could be like, yeah, I really like that. Do you want to jump on this one? And I'll be like, yeah.
Fantastic. Now, that was going to be my next question, not like, how do you plan to market yourself, young woman?
I'm really good. Use me, please.
Yeah, I'm going to busk in Leicester Square, and somebody will be going to a movie and ask me to write
and then I'll hop in a limo and I'll be off to Hollywood. Boom.
Because that's how it works, right?
That's it,
in
exactly.
The movies, yes. The rags to riches story of Charli Mackie. Yeah, I mean, that is incredible, and probably representation will come from that. And another thing you learn too is that as you get older and as you progress through your careers, that you go back, you make all these connections now at this time, and time takes over and life takes over, and people get married, have children, they have careers, and then all of a sudden there's this person you were at college with who is you're going to collaborate with, and you've already sort of created this really strong blueprint, or a friendship when you were really young.
Exactly.
And now time in the future you can come back around and work together again. And so
absolutely,
because I go backwards and forwards with young people who want to go to university, or they think they need to go to university to get a degree, but it's not a specific degree. It's just to have a degree, or the first person in your family who maybe was lucky enough to go to university. You come out, and all I hear is they have all this debt, and I'm like, you're so smart, just go out into the workplace and learn on the job. But I think there's some jobs like this that clearly need a great deal of, you need to be embedded in the training, I think. And it sounds like that's what you're going to do. How long is the course that you're going to take?
So the course is 2 years, and it's unlike any other master's course I've seen. It's very, very intensive, which is fantastic because it's also very, very expensive. So I'd hope that I'm getting my money's worth. Yeah, just add more debt. God, we're up to my eyeballs now. Might as well go more.
Just keep going.
Just keep going. But yeah, so there's so much contact time, because even though my degree, I felt like I was working all the time, I only had about 8 lectures and seminars a week, and that was it. The rest of the time you are either recovering from hangovers or maybe trying to do some assignments. But then with this one, I'm pretty sure that everyone who goes there for a reason, doesn't just go there for the nightlife, but goes there to learn and become this industry professional that they want to be.
Yes, that's important, isn't it? And I think once you get to that, the postgraduate stage or the masters, you really are with your tribe, and that the other people have sort of fallen away and gone into their life, which maybe you would want to do a little bit, but I think to stand you in good stead for the future. That sounds like so it's a little bit scary and a little bit exciting, really, isn't it? All of that.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm a writer as well, so I beat myself up if I'm not writing something, and I haven't done as much as I wanted to during lockdown and COVID, because when it started, I was like, oh, this is going to be the time when I was going to just have endless time, but that didn't happen.
No,
for many, many reasons. And do you find yourself composing sequences and putting them away? Do you have like an archive of pieces of music, or do you find it's much easier if somebody goes, oh, I need a piece of music for this short film, and can you do it, Charlie? I need it like next week.
110% the latter. I find it almost impossible to write without a project in mind, or without someone saying, I need this, or I want this. And then I'll be like, yeah, I can do that. And I do it immediately. And I'm filled with inspiration. But then if I just go into my little study and think, oh, I should write something, I come out 5 hours later, usually in tears, just thinking, I'm terrible at this. I can't do it. Nothing's happened. I haven't got a piece. I can't do this course. All of these kind of spirals out. So, I mean, sometimes I'll just get inspiration. I'll just think of something. I hear a lot of the time, I hear things in my head before I write it down. So I could be looking at something and I think, oh, yeah, that music would go with whatever I'm looking at. And then I think, oh, pin that, and then run to my computer and write it down. And I keep all these snippets. I have got this sort of archive, and I've got all the odd folder names of something vaguely robotic and something that sounds like a tree, all of these things, which makes sense to me and absolutely no one else, not even me sometimes. Looking through my folders like, what was that? But again, it's trying to, as soon as I think of something, it's trying to just make sense of that and write it down and be able to make it sound like it does in my head. And that, again, comes with practice. And it's like practicing an instrument, practicing this software. You just have to keep going at it. So I'm trying to get as many contacts as I can and just giving me projects. So I've got a couple at the moment going. A sound engineer, a family friend who's I did a couple of bits. So the Premier League theme music, something wasn't right with the ending, so I did some tweaking with that. So now my ending is on the Premier League, which is really exciting, even though I don't really like. Yes. Even though I don't really like football that much, I know that it's there and it's
doesn't matter. No.
all over the world, which is fantastic.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, which is and it's just, again, something that I can think of and think, well, I have actually done something. Yeah, so from the Premier League, it sort of led on to a couple of other projects, and I'm not allowed to say any names, but it's for this documentary for a dancing company, and they've asked me to do the theme music, sort of like the title sequence. So it's a dance competition and sort of a history of dance. Again, I can't tell you who it is, even though I really want to, because it doesn't make much sense without it. But there's something brewing. So I'm working on that at the moment, which is really exciting. And I've got completely free reign of it, and it's paid, which is great because
This is amazing.
Yeah.
So mentioning no names, are they going to give you a piece of film for the promo that you're going to underscore, or are you going to the dance studio and writing for them? How's it going to work?
So it's a bit odd, actually. I've got quite a lot of free reign, which is terrifying and very exciting at the same time. So one bit, it's sort of like, at the beginning of documentaries or films, you could have like a 5-second animation-y thingy, almost like an advert. So I've been given that, so I can match that completely, which I've already done, and that's got good feedback already. But for the second one, all I've been given is, I need a 25 to 40-second opening sequence that can also be used as a closing sequence, and it's on dance, and it's on a dance competition. Go. So that's quite daunting, because I don't really know what they want, and I've asked them a million times. It's like, so what kind of mood do you want? What do you want it in a style of a dance? And they're just like, just do it. Just do what you want to do. Just give me something, and we'll tell you if you like it or not. So I think I'm going to write a few different versions.
Yeah, so that was what was going through my mind, was just certainly I can speak as a writer when you're staring at the blank page, and I hear a lot of writers talk about, oh God, I can't write anything bad. Yes, you can, because it's going to be bad the first time it comes out anyway.
Exactly.
So just write a lot of rubbish.
Mm-hmm.
I actually quite like doing it now. I write a lot of rubbish, all the thoughts in my head, and then I'll go back the next day and I'm like, oh God, this is rubbish. Oh, but I know how to fix it.
Yes, exactly. It's having the confidence and the guts just to write rubbish.
Yes, nobody's going to see it.
Exactly, nobody's going to see it. But it's also like it feels like you hold yourself to this standard where everything you write has to be gold dust. It has to be perfect, otherwise you're rubbish. And
also the very naive notion that everything comes out fully formed.
Exactly.
And it just can't. And especially when you're making theatre or film, it's all a collaboration. The best idea you have in your head may just not be feasible, or may not work, or might kill somebody. So you have to come up with it. You have to come up with it. And sometimes you come up with it on your own, which is well done you. And sometimes the best time is when it bounces off somebody else or some other people, and you get this wonderful, greater than the sum of its parts moment.
Exactly.
So I'm very excited for you to do a few crap things. And then
Me too.
Yeah, it'll be great. Well, listen, I've really, really enjoyed talking with you, Charli. I have learned a lot about your process and your training, which I think can be a little, you've demystified that process for me and certainly the people listening. And what I want to say to you is that when your cloak and dagger dance piece is out there, please let me know, because I'll make sure that there's a link to it and there's something to it. On our website and on our podcast.
Fantastic.
Thank you so much, and really, really good luck with getting into that university for your master's program. I've got a good feeling about it.
Thank you so much. Gosh, I've talked to many people now for it not to happen.
Well, there you go. Then it'll have to happen.
Oh God,
it'll have to happen.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
So
fingers crossed. Thank you so much for having me, Alex. It's been so lovely.
We are very proud to announce that Charli won a place at the National Film and Television School, one of only 10 places available, and is currently studying for her master's degree in film and television composition. Charli also composed our theme tune. Fierce Female Filmmakers is a production of Artemisia's Daughters. For more information, go to artemisiasdaughters.org.